Right, I've got one more. Maybe this will be the last take. We'll see if Sabatine has one, he can do one. But I've got one more because it's another prediction. Are you ready? Spicy prediction. I know we're still miles away from Worlds, but I'm going to do another prediction for you.
Oh.
So bearing in mind, you all just saw G2 win, and then think back, G2 at MSI. By the way, it could have beaten SKT twice. They almost did, looked awesome. So the world where they come third. I mean, who even knows if they played BLG? That would be interesting, right? Didn't happen. Then they've won all these splits. Here's my prediction. This is spicy. G2 won't get out of the Swiss system. Here's why. Because I think people are forgetting one factor about this G2 team that I think only works in Europe now, which is in Europe, one of the reasons they still won all the splits is because they do have a team where in theory every player is top 3 or 4 at their position. And because of that, it didn't matter what the meta was. They could always find a player that could perform. Look, it was often Caps saving their ass, but even when it wasn't, I saw it, I think it was in the spring finals. I thought Hans Sama was shit in the spring finals. Didn't matter. That was actually probably the best time for Broken Blade. That was looking awesome. You know what? By the time they got to summer, I thought Yike wasn't even playing the meta right. Like, actually, you probably wanted him to default into a stupid Sejuani pick, but he was trying to do his, like, I'm the carry player, though. Haha, it's second year for me. And he was doing weird-ass shit. I also saw, if you go way back, obviously, Mickey X had a fucking screamer in spring. He had a time where he was looking like absolute trash, but all he could do is still get that one poppy game with the knock the carry out, win that game, and then you win 3-2 or something. So, if you look across the board, the only player I don't think's actually really played bad at any time is probably Caps. And even then, I'll give you one reason for Caps. I thought Caps was just playing what you call like rope-a-dope in America, where you give people like a think they're winning, and then last second you pull the rug out from them. Because what I thought he was doing was, bro, it's Caps. There's no way he doesn't want to play the Zeri that's dominating all the LCK and LPL games. He must just be hiding it because he can win anyway, and he's going to bust it out in the finals. Bro, he wasn't even that good on it. Like, I've been watching Rookie just murder people on that champion. Fucking all the best mid laners. Every time they get the Zeri in the LPL, I'm locked in, because that could be like a 12 kill game. His Zeris were mid as fuck, so I'm just going to put this out there. If I run down the lineup, I think Broken Blade for real's been invisible sometimes, and I think actually last MSI was one of his only good international performances. I think Yike actually showed this year he isn't a guy who can just play every style. In fact, I think he clearly has his own defined style, and it isn't actually always entirely working with the style that they want to play in G2, because I referred to something before, I think G2 is still the classic European mid to bot team. That's how they play. They play to Hans Sama, basically. I think they even sometimes actually give up some of Caps' carry strength to get the comp that Hans Sama wants. For Caps, like I said, I don't even know if he's going to play the meta champions. And also, if we go back to that nightmare faker must-win worlds meta of Orianna Zay, that isn't what I want in this G2 team for Caps. Like, bro, I want Caps on all the mobile champions that he can make crazy. But I don't want him playing a fucking mid lane as Zay. That's not how I'm going to have G2 at their best. Hans Sama's just been up and down. I think he pretty much at this point in his career has to be like a lane dominant player and be played to. And then Mickey X, he started in winter awesome. He's looked mad sketchy for most of the year. And he does like those mid-game players that are still cool, seems to have good macro. But man, he can actually just straight up lose lanes. So if you add it all together, add in the randomised element, I have no idea who they're going to draw. I think it's plausible. So I'm going to say G2 will go out in the Swiss system. They will fail to make the top 8. There's my hot take for you.
So here's my one counter to this, okay? And we actually like seen it. Teams that have like the very defined strengths that like they rely on. G2 is one of the best teams at like picking on them. For example, TES want to play through like bot lane. Okay, like they need their like bot lane to like be perfect for that. And G2 identified that, found matchups that they understood better than TES. And I think G2 is a worse team than TES, by the way, right? I think that's shown providence across the time. But because of that, they were reliant on their bot lane. Like they were able to do that. The bot lane of like G2 is a very, very, very potent thing, and it is. When it goes badly, you can see how badly it can go like for them, where Hans Sama is actually way more prone to like mid-game errors than like people make out. Like last MSI, he got caught flashless by Yagal. This MSI, he got caught with flash by Faker on the Array, on the Jinx. People make out he's like this very, very consistent, like almost Asian-like or like Korean-like late-game style. He isn't actually. But in the early laning, he's better than some of them. Yeah. He is actually like just categorically better. And him and Mickey X are god tier at finding those like, picks. And so for me, I'm really curious what the meta is going to be at like Worlds, because if it's going to be really bot centric, and it's going to be the same way it was when DRX won Worlds, and what's his name, Deft and Beryl had all those like weird 2v2 matchups. G2 is the type of team that if they get that, they can like fluke run it, because people have to start banning like Heimers and Nikos and we've got to take out his Poppy, and then Caps and BB are getting like picks that they just should not be getting in the meta. They can flaunt that the same with DRX. They'll probably not win Worlds, but like go like a lot deeper, because going out, they did do it last time, and that's why I'm like sitting here like charging. But I thought. I don't know, because that's a very specific meta. Anything else, I think they're weaker on, actually, now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, I think I kind of like, it's a very, very, very good take, Thorin, because depending on how the patch goes, if nothing moved till Worlds, your take is very valid. The aim of Riot to kind of narrow down the power of marksmen in the mid, narrow down the power of the jungle, carry jungle, and go back more like traditional tank jungles, will shift some power towards the bot side of the map, naturally. And if this occurs, I think that G2 should feel comfortable moving into Worlds. But you clearly see that if things don't shift enough, and there's still like this meta where if your jungle is on Sejuani and the opponent is Bren, and Sejuani shows in the first 3 levels, and Bren gets a lead somehow the game is over, you know that G2 cannot play that. You know that if Handsome and Mikix cannot spend the time in bot side getting some pressure for Yike to invade early, or to go back in the mid with Yike and Mikix to enable Caps to play like a moron, because Caps play aggressive like a moron, but he always has his support and his jungle backing him up, then definitely G2 doesn't look good. I think that they are actually on the paper, on this current meta, they're worse than Team Liquid. I think they even look in early game worse than Fnatic. And the only reason they won so many games this year is just because they keep playing side lanes. And I don't know, I feel like nobody in Europe has a good knowledge of like how to like cover your side lanes. And so all teams gather mid as 5. They lose all the tempo on side. G2 wins 1 fight. They teleport on the wave that they pushed previously, and they finish the game. But if this doesn't happen and they face any team that has a little bit of discipline, for instance, Team Liquid, I don't see them win with the current parameters. So I would say it is actually an okay take. I think you're probably like a perfect 50-50 like between Heat and Cold.
So here's the thing. One of these teams, it doesn't have to be specifically one of these teams, but these are the types of teams that need to push them out. Because if you look at the top 8, it's kind of already like filled out on Worlds. You have Mad Lions, FlyQuest, 100 Thieves, and then PSG Talon, right? Now, which one, like, if BO3, like, I think PSG is their worst matchup, but I would favour them so much against everyone else. And I think this...
TL can beat them, surely?
TL for sure.
TL can't beat G, but G2 the best of 3. Come on.
No. I'm just thinking, like...
There's one.
Yeah, Ed, put it this way.
Because, by the way, a bigger point I sort of was making here is, this could have been a hot take too. One of the things that did not end up being real about G2 was the fool's gold of this roster for about a year or so was the idea that because they had, I agree, like some of the best players at all the positions, that meant they were like the ultimate team. They could play any style. That's nonsense. As I said, this team clearly is at their best when Hans Sama's really good and they can play through bot lane. If they can't do that, I think this team gets way, way worse. I think that's actually, I agree. I also think Hans Sama is someone who's had a very weird career narrative where people only seem to paint the positive and they don't ever seem to diss him. Remember, he even was the one that was allowed to skate from the rogue failures, etc. Like, somehow people only do his upside. Dude, as you saw, and I think that's what happened in Team Liquid, from talking to people who were in Team Liquid when he was in the team, it sounds like one of the reasons he didn't succeed is because that team, remember, it was a Bjergsen team, and they thought they could do the old school thing in NA of like, we just scale forever and win because we're better at the end of the game. It's like, dude, that's the opposite of Hans Sama's style of player. Hans Sama's style of players, we are just going to win lane from minute 1 to minute 15, and then we're going to be so fed, I'm going to have my 2 items, we're just going to roam, and then we're going to make fights, and we're going to win because I'm the ADC, I've got all the, like, I think they had the opposite style. So I think in a world where it's either scaling or you're, like here's the point, you could play the broken win, obviously he probably wants you to. I just think that fucks you over if you're Hans Sama. Like, if you have to ask me, which do I want? Do I want Hans Sama weak side, or do I want Broken Blade on a tank? I'll take Broken Blade on a tank no matter what people say. He'll still do something in the team fight. So I think the problem is, I think G2's more defined than people make them out to be, you know. Same with the Yike thing. I think he just had times when he just got covered because they had the better team. But if you really hard force him to like only play like fucking Maokai or something, I don't think he's going to have as good a time, mate. I think he's going to suddenly not look as sick a player, you know.
Because here's the thing: the last upset is predicated was obviously because they lost to the NA team, right? Okay, and upset. But I feel like to do this calculation of if you're to play that matchup over and over, are they more likely than not to win that matchup? I still think they are more likely. If you look at the rest of the series. I was put it this way, okay. I would still have them more likely than not to make it out, but I think they're way more better reliant this time. Because I've now thought about it, the actual number of metas that really suit them this year is actually a lot less than I was assuming. And the other thing was, and this is quite curious, is now we have all the data on T1. They're not as good a team as that BO5 with what T1 went their run went on to be is not as good in hindsight as it is on paper. As in, I know they went on to win EWEC, but BLG mauled them eventually, and then I know T1 beat them again and the thing, but that's what I'm saying. The BO5 isn't as sexy. And here's the other thing: I don't think G2's learning from losses as well as they used to. I don't even think Dylan's as sharp in the draft right now, or because everyone praises Dylan, I do as well because everyone gives him the credit. So there's a lot of stuff right now actually that's going against G2.
By the way, another reason no one ever bets against G2 as well is this. Because there's a chance, they're obviously one of the few Western teams that has a very, are they ever even better chance than TL to also have the crazy ceiling and to go to, by the way, they could be in the World's Finals. That's what's ridiculous about this take. But my problem is this. I think people have this weird thing in the West, if you're a Western talent, a Western analyst, where you don't want to be the guy who for all time people can go, pull up this clip of them saying you're not going to make it to the playoffs. So what you do is, because you know the ceiling's crazy, you essentially become a fan, like all those bloody NA casters, and you just go I believe it's possible. It is possible. G2 could be in the final, but I'm just saying, I'm actually going to have the balls to say, I think this time they fuck it up and the roster isn't as good as you hope it would be. And also, look, on this one, I probably am relying on them getting a hard draw in Swiss. But by the way, that can happen. I can tell you, as someone who's watched a million CS majors, those Swiss draws are a fucking nightmare. They actually just depress you, mate. You'll just see them already. Every time there'll be one or two where it'll be great, Gigabyte Marines has a PCS team. Meanwhile, what's that? G2's playing against Team Liquid. This is fair. Same round, that can happen, sadly.
But they lose their aura. G2 is T1, where they have an aura in Europe. People are scared to be proactive against G2. People see G2 inting in front of them, and they're they're masterminds. They must be doing something. They're cooking. It's no, they're actually idiots. Kill them, please, now. And they then let them just get away with absolute murder. The Asian teams and the other top teams are going to just look at them and be why are you doing that? Come in and squash the bug.
Also, remember, bro, there's BO1s here. Remember, put it this way, here's what you really aren't even ready for, Europeans. What if in a BO1, fucking FlyQuest beats them? We're acting like that can't happen in a BO1. Bro, in BO1s, they lose in Europe to shit just Rogue. It can happen. So I don't think people realise. Also, we're all just looking for the bright side on G2, but there's a darkness under there too. There's a darkness. See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.